I had another video planned for today, but with the recent passing of the one and only Sérgio Mendes, it felt only really appropriate to talk about him and his art and his life in a similar way that I've done on the channel about Ayrton Moreira. Yeah, Sérgio Mendes is a big loss to the Brazilian music community. Today we're just going to talk about his life story, where he comes from, what he does, how he did it, and get to know him a little bit better. Sergio was born on the 11th of February 1941 in Niterói, a well-known part of Rio de Janeiro on the other side of the bay. As a child, he struggled with osteomyelitis and had to wear a cast for many years. However, subsequently he managed to get over that and was actually one of the first people in Brazil to receive penicillin, thanks to his dad being a doctor. He went to school at the local conservatoire there in Niterói with the hopes of being a classical pianist. As time went on, he fell in love with jazz music, and it timed perfectly for him as he started playing in the nightclubs in Rio de Janeiro in the late 1950s, exactly when Bossa Nova was happening. He was part of that scene that brought on Bossa Nova and played with all the great artists from that time, including Antonio Carlos Jobim, who was a mentor to Sergio. During this time, he also got the opportunity to tour in Europe and the United States. In 1961, he got his debut band together and recorded his first album, Dance Moderno. It's an instrumental samba jazz record, playing tunes from all the great composers of bossa nova and samba. His Sexteto Bossa Rio consisted of Cannonball Adderley, Dom Hum Humão on drums, Herbie Mann on flute, just to name a few. Cannonball and Herbie had Sergio play on some of their records. And the album recorded in Carnegie Hall in New York City. 1963, he got to go back to New York City on a visa to play on the Ed Sullivan Show and to play in a very famous nightclub from the late 50s into the 60s in New York, Bassin Street East. The Musicians Union only allowed for these two shows to happen, and then he would have to go back to Brazil with his cast of musicians. He was over with Tom Jobim, Flavio Ramos, and Aloysio de Oliveira. Thankfully, he made some friends in the States. They helped him get into the Musicians Union there. Subsequently, he moved to Los Angeles and was signed to Capitol Records to form Brazil 65. Brazil 65 featured a huge cast of great artists, including Rosinha de Valencia. If you don't know who she is, you're welcome. I've just introduced you to one of the best guitar players who ever came out of Brazil. The first two records they released with Capitol didn't go the way the label wanted them to. They were signed to Herb Alpert's record label, A&M, and rebranded as Brazil 66. Part of this rebrand was bringing in two singers who were able to sing in Portuguese and in English. The first Brazil 66 record, produced by Herb Alpert, went on to be platinum. That album was incredibly popular, and in part due to the success of the breakout single, Mais Que Nada. The success of Mais Que Nada came at around the same time as Girl from Ipanema. These two songs on their own helped really elevate Brazil's music on a world stage in a way that they hadn't quite been before. This first Brazil 66 record also included covers from lots of other Brazilian artists, as well as a cover from the Beatles and some other English tracks. A few years later, in 1968, he performed at the Academy Awards, which then just was the gig to give him so many other gigs. He got to play for presidents, he got to go to Japan World Expo in 1970, and generally just playing for high class clientele. Sergio's career is one with lots of highs and lows, as is all careers, but he never stopped releasing records. In total, he made 55 releases over his entire career, which is crazy to think about. That's a lot of stuff to put out into the world. And the best thing about Sergio's whole approach is that he was consistent. He was a genius at fusing Brazilian styles with other styles and taking that post-bossa nova samba feel and that musicality and putting it in different contexts, all of which helped elevate that music internationally. In 1992, he released his Grammy award-winning album Brasileiro. Brasileiro is a masterpiece. If you've not listened to this record, I would encourage you to stop watching this video and go listen to it. It is a masterpiece. I don't know how else to describe it. It features loads of songs from Carlinhos Brown, Tom Jobim, Hermeto Pascal, Adir Blanc, João Bosco, loads of different amazing musicians from Brazil. I'd even look up the liner notes and just see the cast of musicians on this record. It's insane. But this album timed well with the kind of revival of lounge music in the late 90s, where people were into more relaxing music in ambient settings. During that time, the work of Sergio was really drawn upon and was a reference for those people to go and tap into the bossa feel, which was perfect for that aesthetic. In 2006, he released his next big record. Obviously, there were lots of releases during the meantime, but Timeless was another, again, just that twist of Brazilian music with other genres and working with different artists. Timeless was a huge success. It also included a re-recording of Mais Que Nada with the Black Eyed Peas, which is how I originally heard it when I was just a child. I heard Mais Que Nada with the Black Eyed Peas. They even, if I remember rightly, had like a promotional thing at McDonald's. Does anyone else remember that? I feel like I got something with a Happy Meal that had some sort of reference or significance to that. Maybe I'm misremembering. But Timeless also featured Stevie Wonder, Justin Timberlake, Erykah Badu, Jill Scott, Marcelo D2, including so many others. So this record was more of a mix of the samba, jazz, bossa nova, Brazilian flair that he'd already mixed with other styles, a more modern approach involving more neo soul and hip hop that was on the rise. He's earned so many accolades and like even was nominated for an Oscar for his participation in the soundtrack to the movie Rio. As I said, made more than 55 releases, and his most recent performances were just in November 2023. He passed away on the 5th of September 2024 due to complications with long COVID, and he dedicated his entire life to samba, jazz, bossa nova, infusing those three things and reinventing them over and over again to see how many times he could reimagine them. What voices could he get into that, both literal voices and musical voices. He was an absolute master of fusion music, putting different elements of different styles together, and a top class arranger. To close off the video, I just want to share a quote that I found from him talking about bossa nova in 2005. "You can relate to it in an organic way," he said of the genre in 2005. "It makes you dream, it makes you feel good. It's very rhythmical, so you can dance to it, and it has haunting melodies that you take to bed with you, so you can hum and whistle them." Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed this video, here is one that you'll like just as much as this one, hopefully, if not more. And I hope to see you in the next one. Take it easy.